Hello and welcome to the They Think It's All Over Christmas special. And with one to play in the series, David Gower leads Gary Lineker by 4 games to 3. With David and Jonathan is a writer and comedian who's recently signed a multi-million-pound deal to write a sitcom, which means he can finally afford a season ticket at Chelsea. David Baddiel. With Gary and Rory is the BBC's horse racing presenter who says she finds interviewing so enjoyable she'd be happy interviewing mushrooms. So if you see her chatting to Rory's underpants during the show, it's Clare Balding. We get things moving with our excuses round, David, Jonathan and David. In a dismal attempt to make things seasonal, your first question concerns snowboarding. Here's Canada's Ross Rebagliati winning the Super G gold at the last Winter Olympics in Japan.
Oh, and Rebagliati taking all sorts of risks on this steep run into the finishing line, where the racers are tired, gulping down as much oxygen as possible, but taking too many chances. Rebagliati's time against Keston Holtz, and he's got it.
Now, straight afterwards, Rebagliati tested positive for cannabis, but he had a very persuasive excuse. What was it, David's team?
Yeah, hang on just a sec. Oh. Oh.
That was classic Gower timing. Played the shot long before he needed it. And got a duck.
We had a question, didn't we?
Perhaps he wasn't meant to be in the race at all. Perhaps he was just stoned up a mountain, snowboarded down to the all-night garage to get 15 Caramacs, and found he'd won the race. Dope isn't really a performance-enhancing drug, though, is it? Because it makes you slow, makes you eat a lot of Mars bars. Obviously, they should be testing Paul Gascoigne by now.
It worked for me. I tried it once, and for 15 years, I thought I was making hundreds for England.
When the kids smoke dope, as I believe they do, apparently they get something called the munchies. But apparently even crazed junkies refuse to eat Walker's crisps. Due to the foul smell that comes from the bag and the grotesque parody of a human being drawn on the cover. I mean, would you eat a bag of crisps with John Merrick, the Elephant Man, on the front? I think not. What they're playing at, I do not know. I think I do actually know the answer to this.
What is it?
I think, I remember reading that he said that he'd been, I think he'd either been at a party or he'd been hanging out with other snowboarders and that they were smoking marijuana, and in actual fact he had passively...
Smoking what?
Marijuana.
Is that like marijuana with Jews in it?
It's a Jewish dope, yeah.
Don't get too sensitive, that's
No,
all.
And they've been smoking... He's been smoking...
on the Christmas show for a start, it's bad enough.
He claimed it was passive smoking, I believe. Is that correct?
I'll give you 3 points for that, yeah.
Keep smoking.
I think that's a disadvantage. I think that's just a useless excuse. This whole idea of passive smoking. How can you passively imbibe something? You know, if you're just sitting around people, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily doing it yourself. At the Comedy Awards last weekend, I found myself in a room with Graham Norton, Dale Winton and Michael Barrymore.
But you didn't inhale, did you?
The answer is that Rebagliati claimed that he had passively inhaled his friend's cannabis smoke. However, he was unrepentant.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to change my friends. For you, I don't know, I don't care what you think about that. I think my friends are real, and I'm going to stand behind them.
So his friends are real, and he's going to stand behind them. Especially Gandalf the Wizard and Mordric the Dragon Slayer. Now, Gary, Rory and Claire, it's Christmas, and that can mean only one thing: volleyball. At last year's World Championships, China, seen here losing the women's final against Cuba, were subsequently fined by the volleyball authorities. So we want to know what the Chinese had done wrong. Gary's team.
That was lovely, wasn't it, eh? I love women's volleyball. I'm glued to the screen often. Actually, I saw that. I didn't see the end of that game because I went blind, but I was fine for watching that in Dixon's, actually.
I think they didn't participate in Group 6. The Cubans did. Chinese system. You're not doing that. No way. Absolutely not.
Interest you, does it?
Hello. Posh Bird's gone off on one.
play a bit of volleyball, did you?
I don't know.
What's your sport then, Posh Bird?
I played lacrosse.
What's
What's
that?
It's kind of hockey at head height. It's very...
Sounds all right to me.
Is that dangerous?
Very vicious.
Say, is it true posh birds are goers? Because I've heard that. I never really met anyone growing up, but I was told, dead cert bet if you're in a party, nurses, posh birds.
Is that right?
If you found a posh nurse, you might as well just leave your pants at home.
I do actually know the answer to this.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember reading it at the time and I was rather shocked, actually. The Chinese, I think, were fined because they didn't show enough flesh. They weren't wearing revealing enough clothing.
I'll give you 3 points for that.
Which is one good reason why I was never a volleyball player.
Remarkable.
Yeah, the player's crime was not to wear sexy enough clothes, as Chantal Mortimer of the British National League side Wessex explains.
The International Volleyball Association introduced a new sexy lycra kit, which didn't leave much to the imagination. However, some teams were just too boring to wear it, and that's why they got fined. So, for all you lycra lovers out there, this is what you missed. Whoa.
Yeah, that was Chantal Mortimer there, along with Tim Hollis and Grant Percy. You see, he always writes them down. Any name, he gets it going to be Field of Sport. He's doing it again. In 1996, the Polish volleyball players Wacław Krzysztofski, Krzysztof Szczeszty and Zbigniew Tomaszewski
How do you spell?
and Bratislav Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious didn't make their national team, so they won't be turning up later. The volleyball authorities introduced the new regulation to try to compete with the popularity of beach volleyball, which has entirely different rules. Beach volleyball is a two-person game, whereas watching it is very much a solo event. Women's beach volleyball took off on Bondi Beach in the 50s, where the beach inspector used to come along with his ruler and measure the players' bikini bottoms to make sure they were the right size. It wasn't until the 1970s that it was discovered there was no such thing as a beach inspector. During the coverage of beach volleyball at the last Olympics, Rory set a personal best of 2 minutes 30 seconds. And at the end of that round, David's team have 3 points and Gary's team have 3 points.
Or visit uktv.co.uk